Is Rishi Kumar coming?
He has some guest. He's coming. He told me he'll be coming.
Krishna, Krishna. Everyone! Everyone! Christian. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare What to do? I think we should end the kirtan soon.
Just read or sing.
Huh?
Just after this.
Ask them to sing it three times, all them. I have to find out how many people were attended the last two classes. I think not many. So someone has to ask them because Mr. Kumar didn't come.
हरे कृष्णा। तो आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है आज के फाइनल सेशन में श्रीमद् भागवतम वन स्टोरी फोर ट्रूथ्स। आप में से कितने भक्त पिछले 2 दिनों में उपस्थित थे इस सेशन के लिए? हाथ उठाएं प्लीज। जो लोग पिछले 2 दिनों से उपस्थित थे श्रीमद् भागवतम के सेशन में, काफी नए लोग हैं, आप सबका भी स्वागत है। तो हमारा बड़ा सौभाग्य है कि
A friend of the Hindu just came, just taking care of me, just came.
Oh, that's okay, not a problem. It's just this situation completely ruins the idea of the seminar, though. I mean, yeah.
We got the auditorium only. We knew that the auditorium was available only half an hour back. They told us it was blocked. Half an hour back they said it's available. Thought it had been too much of chaos to change the last moment.
Anyway, I'm just mentioning that there's 1/3 of the people attended the previous ones. All the brahmacharis have gone, and there's 2/3 of the people who don't have any idea what we're talking about. And everyone's talking. So, and
Document reduced now.
yeah.
हरे कृष्णा। विशेष उचित सूचना है, कृपया अपने सभी मोबाइल बंद करें, क्योंकि मोबाइल इतना सम्मानजनक वस्तु है, आप उससे अलग नहीं हो सकते। उससे आप बंद करें या साइलेंट मोड पे रखें तुरंत। और जितने भी दर्शनार्थी यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं, सबसे अनुरोध है कि हमारे जो सुरक्षा कर्मचारी हैं उनके साथ सहयोग दें। यहाँ पर किसी भी प्रकार का आवाज न करें, भगवान के सामने चिल्लाएं ना, किसी भी प्रकार की आवाज न करें। यहाँ पर विशेष सेमिनार हो रहा है। श्रील प्रभुपाद के प्रिय शिष्य वरिष्ठ वैष्णव हैं, प्रभु जी विश्व भर में प्रचार करते हैं, उनके मुखारबिंद से सुनने का अवसर मिल रहा है, इसका लाभ उठाइए। हो सकता है कुछ आप में से है जो इस सेमिनार को पहले अटेंड नहीं कर पाए, आप लोग ध्यानपूर्वक सुनिए जरूर, क्योंकि भगवान का संदेश सबके लिए समान है, क्योंकि उसका लाभ उठाइए। प्लीज मेंटेन utmost silence.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivasesha Sanyavadi Puskati Desatarane Om Jnanatiminandasya Janajana Salakaya Chaksu Samilatan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sahapadantikam Vansakalpa Truvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivracha Patitanam Pabinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. For the past 2 days, we've been speaking about the life of Sri Narada Muni and how he became a great sage. And the story of his life was not an easy life, and it begins with a disaster, and he's cursed, and he loses everything. And in his next life, he's born in a very unfortunate circumstance. And that unfortunate circumstance gave birth to humility in him. And that humility caused in him a simple serving spirit. And when he came in touch with great sages, Bhakti Vedantas, just for 4 months, he heard their instructions, he served them. He was very simple, just a 5-year-old boy. And because of his simple serving mood and his good qualities, even though he was so young, by hearing from these great souls the taste that they had, that which they found pleasure in, and they found pleasure in the transcendental realm, the spiritual realm, which gives unlimited bliss. Here we are also trying for pleasure. And here, according to who we are individually, we have different desires and different plans how we're going to find pleasure. But spiritual life and any true spiritual path teaches us that the pleasure that we are seeking, the pleasure that we are searching for, the pleasure that will truly bring satisfaction, it does not exist in this world. Although we continuously try, all of us continuously try to find pleasure by combining the senses with the sense objects, finding something beautiful to see, trying something to find something tasty to eat, trying to touch something soft and comfortable, and hear something that's very sweet and pleasing to the ears. Ultimately, these things don't bring us the satisfaction that we are longing for, because we are eternal. This is the basic principle that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehenos min yata dehe komaram joparam jara. Dearest, a sober person who sees things accurately. What is the opposite of a sober person? Raise your hand. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. What's the opposite of a sober person? What is the opposite of the English word sober? Yes, you have such a big smile, I cannot resist calling on you. Intoxicated, drinking. An intoxicated person does not see the world accurately. The intoxication has influenced his mind, and he cannot understand properly. Sometimes he may think the world is spinning around, and sometimes he's not in control of his mind. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says a sober person who is not intoxicated by trying to enjoy the material life, he can understand his own eternality, that he is eternal. We are all eternal. And Krishna says, Najayate mriyate va karachin, that we do not die. We ourselves don't die when the body dies. This is wonderful. Wonderful knowledge. So Narada Muni, as a little boy, he heard this knowledge and many other wonderful, very secret knowledges from these great sages. They taught him secret knowledge, Guyatamam, that was spoken by Krishna himself to Lord Brahma. They taught him because his good qualities, his serving mood, attracted their mercy, their kindness. It melted, his mood melted their hearts. So he wanted to reveal to him very secret knowledge. And this boy, Narada Muni, he took that secret knowledge just like we would take if someone gave us the most valuable jewel, and we knew it was so valuable, and someone trusted us with this jewel, we would keep it so carefully. So Narada Muni took this knowledge and he did the most wonderful thing with this knowledge. Do you know what that most wonderful thing was? Raise your hand if you can, if you know. Yes. He applied it to his life. He used it. He put it to use. He acted on it. And that is will bring us to perfection. It is one thing to know what to do, to be free from illusion as to right and wrong, or what is better and then best. But it is another thing to act on it. And Narada Muni, he did that. And because he acted on that great jewel of transcendental knowledge that he was given, he eventually achieved perfection. Yesterday, we spoke about how he, with this knowledge, he lived his life. He was a traveling sadhu, and he went from one place to another, and then to another. He saw good times, he saw bad times, he saw very peaceful places. He saw places that were dangerous, filled with jackals and tigers and snakes. Everyone has to meet their fate in life. And if we have transcendental knowledge, if we have this jewel of knowledge, then we can meet the difficulties and the good and bad that we encounter in life. We can meet those circumstances, and everyone meets a combination of good and bad, of things that bring us happiness, things that bring us distress, things that filled us with anxiety, things that filled us with joy. Everyone experiences this. This is life. But if we learn how to apply spiritual knowledge to every circumstance in life, then we will get the true benefit of life. Otherwise, we just wander through life, getting knocked this way by what happens to us, becoming happy by the good times, and we get knocked this way by the bad times, and we don't actually learn the secret or the true art of living. Now, should I tell you the very secret knowledge that Narada Muni received? If I tell you the secret, but actually this secret is so wonderful that the more you tell it to others, the greater it increases within you. So you're allowed to tell this secret to everyone. And you'll find that with most people, the secret will go in one ear and then out the other. And it will never stay in the consciousness. But because you are all such sincere souls, I will tell you this secret, and I'm sure you'll hold on to it tightly and immediately understand how wonderful it is. It has 4 parts. How many parts does it have? 4. Very good student. The first part is the absolute truth is a person, a supreme person. And before anything came into existence, he existed. Krishna uses the word aham 3 times in this verse. He says, I existed before, when there was no creation. I exist in every circumstance, in every place, in every time, during the creation. And then, when the creation is destroyed, and we don't like to think of this, but one day the entire creation will cease to exist. But yet, Krishna says, I will still be there. I am there in everything, at all times, in all places. Second part. How many are there? How many parts? Very good. How many are left? You are a mathematical genius. The second part. If you don't see Krishna, if you don't see the Supreme Lord, the Param Satyam, in every circumstance, if you see things as separate from Him, if you see anything as if Krishna is not part of it, this is called Maya, illusion. It is not accurate. It is not true. You are not seeing things correctly. And when we see the material world as separate from Krishna, immediately we see it as a place and objects for us to enjoy. We look at everything. In this world, everyone looks at everything and everyone as if this person or this thing is meant for my pleasure. This is called Maya. Well, actually, everything in existence and every circumstance is meant for Krishna's pleasure because it is His energy. That was the first truth. The second is to see anything other than this means that your eyes are covered by illusion. How many truths are left? Very good. The next one tells of the goal. And the goal is love for Krishna. And a person who loves Krishna, everywhere that person looks, in every circumstance, in everything, in every other person, everywhere, he sees the Supreme Lord, his beloved object. That is called prema bhakti. That is called the prayojana. Achieving that is called the necessity of life. The actual goal and necessity. We place so many other things as the goal of our life. But actually, those things will be stolen away by time. But this one thing of love for Krishna, if we capture it, or better said, if it captures us, if we learn to love Krishna, or even make any advancement on the path to love for Krishna, that will be ours forever. And the final truth is called in Sanskrit the Abhideya Tattva, the method of achieving this most wonderful goal of love for Krishna. And that method is deep, full sincerity. That I want to search for this in life. This is what I want to gain from life. And in every circumstance that I am confronted with in life, I will look for and try to find Krishna, because that is who is fully important to me. It takes that to actually get the goal. It takes that type of sincerity. It takes that type of commitment. So because we tend to have one foot with a spiritual desire, yes, I want to progress in spiritual life, and the other foot, but I also want this, and I want that, and I want this, and I want that, and that. So therefore, we don't make the progress that we actually sincerely desire. But if we follow the path of Narada Muni, because the material world is set up in a very, very special way. The material world is set up to not cooperate with our desires to find happiness here. It is engineered. How many of you are engineers? Okay, that's a good 22%. Designed. Engineers are concerned with designing. This material world is designed to cause us frustration continuously. It's built into the design. And probably if you're above 6 years old, you have understood this, that there's something that's not working properly. But instead of understanding it's the very nature of the world, we try always to pull what we want closer and to push aside. We try to push us, and we struggle and struggle and struggle. And we don't actually understand that what we are looking for in this world simply does not exist in this world. So an intelligent person understands this. Yes, he may live in this world. He may perform his duties, whatever they are, but he doesn't put all his hopes for happiness in this world. That would be quite foolish, because we all know that when it's time to leave this world, we don't take anything with us. We know that. But consider that in 100 years from now, or at most 150 years from now, at most 150 years from now, probably no one will ever know that we even existed. What do you think about that? It's very heavy thought, I think. We're working so hard, we're trying to accomplish something, and not only we will lose that which we're trying to accomplish, not only that, but no one will even know we even existed. Now, before you all start crying and leave, there's also some good news attached to that. And that is that we are eternal. We are eternal, and we are meant to find an eternal relationship that is ours forever. And that relationship is love for Krishna. So Narada Muni, even though he was a 5-year-old boy, it's a wedding. And I won't even make any jokes at all. But Narada Muni, amazingly enough, even though he was just a 5-year-old boy, he understood this. He got that much mercy from these great sages. He was a young boy, and he understood this. And then a disaster struck him. And a disaster and a difficult time is the perfect opportunity to do the most difficult thing. And that difficult thing is to apply the spiritual knowledge that we have heard. Very difficult to do that. But difficult times, and they must come, and they will come, and they do come. It's a perfect time. We are forced, practically speaking, to look for a deeper and different level of understanding what's happening to us. Otherwise, we see so many people nowadays, difficult times, depression, even suicide, because no one knows what to do. But Narada Muni, although just a child, and not even an older child, just a young child, because he was so special, he applied the transcendental knowledge that he had learned. He looked for Krishna everywhere. He went through good times and bad, and he looked for Krishna. Where is Krishna in this circumstance? How to act in such a way that Krishna is pleased. And then the Bhagavatam doesn't describe how long he traveled, but he was perhaps somewhat grown up, traveling for years and years and experiencing life and trying to apply transcendental knowledge to his life and seeking Krishna in every circumstance, the good and the bad. One day he began to meditate and tried by his intelligence to place beautiful Krishna within his heart. We are so fortunate because we have Radha Parthasarthi here and Sitaram here. So it's so much easier to place their beautiful forms within our consciousness because we can just look at them. And if we see them, we know we are not in an ordinary place, even just walking in the door. And that is why traditionally so many temples are built on a hill, like this one is. And you have to walk up so many steps just to remind us, just to prepare our mind that we are not, this isn't an ordinary place. We have to struggle a little to come. And then we stand before the deities and we can just look at them, offer prayers. We see so many devotees going, just admitting our own position before the Lord, and maybe taking out some of our hard-earned money or some gift and offering it to them, maybe praying to them to remove the difficulties. But the main point I would like to make here is that when we stand in front of the deities, we know we are not in an ordinary place, in our ordinary consciousness. Something divine has entered our consciousness. And unfortunately, when we walk out the door, we tend to leave that divine consciousness, that divinity in the temple. But we are really meant to take it with us, take them with us at every moment. At every moment. How different your life would be if your consciousness was illumined. Illumined means, what does illumine mean? How do you say that in Hindi? Prakash. Yes. Prakashit. By divinity. At every moment. Just imagine standing before the deities and seeing the sweetness of their form and just keeping that with you and never letting it go every minute of the day. So Narada Muni was practicing that in every circumstance, looking for the Lord. And then he sat down to meditate. And by his intelligence, because the deities were not in front of him, by his intelligence, he tried to place the form of the Lord in his mind, in his heart, and see his beauty. See his beautiful eyes, his pinkish lotus feet, his strong chest, his curling hair. And as he was meditating on the Lord in his own mind, suddenly, not by his power, but by the Lord's mercy, the Lord himself, not of this world, he fully manifested himself in his consciousness. It is like if you were staring at Radha Parthasarthi and praying for their mercy, and suddenly you actually saw Krishna playing his flute and dancing with his eyebrows moving, and he revealed to you the meaning of unlimited beauty. Just imagine how beautiful unlimited beauty is. And Krishna has unlimited beauty, but we only see a little bit. But Narada Muni, by Krishna's mercy, all of transcendental Krishna manifested in his consciousness. And he was overwhelmed. He didn't expect it to happen. And he became so absorbed. He was captivated. Because that which he desired and was searching for year, day after day, year after year, suddenly had manifest in his own heart, in his own consciousness. And then it disappeared. He disappeared. Krishna disappeared. And the boy's meditation, or now perhaps a boy or a man, it doesn't say, he broke. Where is my Lord? Where is my Lord? He could not think of anything else. He stood up. Where? Kaha. Hindi janta hai. And then he sat down again. He sat down to try, through his meditation, to have the Lord again appear in his consciousness. He tried again and again and again, but he was unsuccessful because it wasn't by his endeavor. His endeavor was necessary, but it was by the Lord's reciprocation with his endeavor that caused his success. So he was in a lonely place, a lonely forest. He had lost his Lord. He could not find him again. He tried, but was unsuccessful. And then the Lord spoke to him and said, Hantasmin janmane bhava. If it's not the Lord saying something, please turn it off. Thank you. I thought you may have a direct connection or something. And the Lord spoke to him and said, Hantasmin, oh my dear one, in this birth, Janmani Bhava, Namam Drastam Vivarhati, you will not see me again in this life. So we can say, how unfortunate, how unfortunate, how unfortunate. But to actually fully see the Lord, a person who sees him one time, is certainly not unfortunate. He's most fortunate. And why couldn't he see him again? Because he was not yet pure enough. He had some kashayanam. He had some impurity still in his heart. And Prabhupada in his purport, and Srila Jiva Goswami, one of the acharyas in the commentary, explains what his impurity was. What was the desire that Narada Muni had in his heart that made him ivapakwa, not yet mature in his devotional service. And that was that he was very attached to always being peaceful in a beautiful place. He had the desire for sattva gun. Now that is a desire that most of us don't have to worry about. We have other kinds of desires in our hearts. I want this and I want that and I want that. That's the tendency. At least I can speak for myself. But then the Lord explained, just as a voice in that lonely forest, why he had shown himself to this boy. And the reason was, I have shown myself to you this one time, and you will not see me again in this life, just to increase your desire to have me, to be with me. And this, in one sense, is the true secret of spiritual life and the true secret of advancing spiritually to love for Krishna, is that our desire to be with Krishna should increase and increase and increase. And when our desire to be with Krishna increases, our material hankerings get smaller and smaller and smaller, because they are like nothing. They are like the taste of ashes compared to the taste of a gulab jamun or something very sweet and wonderful and juicy. And then, after saying a few more things, the Lord stopped speaking. And Narada Muni was alone in that forest again. He bowed his head, offering his obeisances to the Lord with great gratitude. And that is where we left off in yesterday's class. And the question comes up, of course, what did he do next? How did he live the remainder of his life? And how did he actually become the great saint Narada Muni? And the answer is given by Narada Muni himself as he explains his life. And this is a key. This is a key. And if, to the degree that we have the sincerity and the purity and the desire to follow this key that Narada Muni has kindly given us by his own life, to that degree we will be advancing. From then on, Narada Muni says, Namani anantasya tatraptapatan kuyani badrani kirtani jasmaran gam paryatam tushtamana gatasmiha kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsara. From that moment on, as he lived his life, he continued doing what he was doing before. He was traveling from place to place. That might not be how we live our life, but the example of what he did as he went through the rest of his life, experiencing his fate, experiencing his karma, his example is what we should follow if we want to achieve the result that Narada Muni achieved. And what he did was, he began chanting the holy name. And he began chanting, remembering, smaram, remembering the Lord and his name and his pastimes continuously. And he ignored what people thought. He was so fixed on his desire, having seen the Lord. He was so fixed on his desire to again be with the Lord. He always, constantly, whether he was going through a difficult part of life, or whether he was going through an easy part of life, whether he was going through a pleasurable part of life, whether he was going through a very, very unfortunate part of life, he always took shelter of the holy names, fame, qualities. He spoke about Krishna. He served Krishna in this way. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu, Padasev. He always ran in his consciousness to Krishna. Now, this is very easy to understand. But it is not so easy to do, because it takes such sincerity, it takes complete sincerity, practically speaking, that I want this. I want this completely. Tatra loya mappi mula mekalam. This is what I want. So the Bhagavatam verse, and he was manatushta. Manatushta means that he was fully satisfied in his mind because he was living in this way. We are looking, all of us, we look for satisfaction. And we look for the things, and we search for the things and the places that will award us, give us that satisfaction. But who of us will honestly say, and I won't ask you to raise your hand, who of us will honestly say, I'm actually fully satisfied in mind? But Narada Muni, because of his constantly chanting in every circumstance, remained fully satisfied in mind, because that relationship with Krishna, bina tam namanamano, being with Krishna in the form of these forms of devotional service, of chanting, hearing, brought him such satisfaction that he did not have to look anywhere else for his satisfaction. And not only that, the verse says that not only was he tushtamana, but he was vimatsara, not envious. Because in this world, we are not satisfied, and we naturally hope that if I get one of these or two of those, or if I enjoy this, or then I'll get satisfied. And we don't have those things. And then when we see someone who does have them, we imagine that they are satisfied. And when we look at them, we get jealous or envious. But he was vimatsaram. He had no envy in his heart because he did not want anything of this world, because he was fully satisfied. Srila Narottama Das Thakur compares trying to be happy in this world. If we are envious, he says it is like having a spear in the heart. Can you be happy with a spear in your heart? So Narada Muni, traveling all over the earth, was fully satisfied. He was humble because he saw that what he had was not because of his own greatness and great qualification, but he saw that Krishna has been very kind to him. So he was humble. And then one day, does anyone raise your hand? Do you know the name of the person who founded the Apple Computer Company? Raise your hand if you know the name. Don't say it. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know who founded the Apple Computer Company? Do you know? Do you know? You do know. I knew you knew. Everyone was just being shy. You know, one day, it's actually interesting. There's one talk that he had before he died. He gave a talk at the Stanford, a big university in the one of the biggest in the United States, to the graduating class. And he told when he was very poor, when he was young, he used to go on Sundays to the Hare Krishna temple. And that was the only good meal that he got the whole week. But he also said that if you live every day like it may be the last day of your life, one day you are going to be correct. And it's true. Because none of us, even Narada Muni, in a material body, will stay forever. Although when we're 16, we know that we're going to die, sort of. When we're 25, we know sort of we're going to die. When we're 35, we sort of know we're going to die. When we're 45, we sort of know we're going to die, but we don't really think it's real. When we're 55, perhaps, but when we're 65 or 70 years old, it becomes very apparent that I'm not going to be here forever. And it's a very frightening thought. Because I don't know what's going to happen next. And what about all the work I've done to accumulate so many things and have so many things and people that I finally have my house and it's arranged just the way I want. And I found that for elderly people, such as myself, one of the things you really get attached to is a soft chair, where you can just sit back in your soft chair and maybe even put your feet up. But you have to give up that chair. You have to give up everything. And it's undeniable. And it's frightening. And therefore most people don't want to face this fact. And they would rather distract themselves by making believe that tomorrow will necessarily be just like today. But Narada Muni was different. Yes, he too was going to drop his body and leave it behind. But his spiritual identity, because of his constant chanting and constantly remembering Krishna, and because of his constantly advancing in his relationship to Krishna, he actually, like a seed, develops into a plant and then a tree and then it gives fruit. But by the time he was ready to die, which means drop his material body, his spiritual identity had fully blossomed. And then when his material body left, as one day it must, his spiritual identity, his real self, who he was already there. And therefore there was no pain, there was no fear. And the example that he gives is just like when there's lightning, Vajra. Immediately there is light, illumination. So similarly, at the moment of his death was the moment also of his life, because he had cultivated that by the process of constantly chanting in every circumstance, remembering Krishna. And that is the real challenge of spiritual life, and that is the real necessity of spiritual life, to do that. And Narada Muni lived the perfect life, an ideal life. And he demonstrated that perfect life. But in the remaining time of this class, I want to bring up and talk about was very interesting to me, a question. Narada Muni was perfect. He always chanted in every circumstance, regardless of what was going on. He was humble, he was never envious, and he was always chanting Krishna's name. His desire was complete and perfect. And therefore he achieved the perfect result. But what happens to a person who is trying his best to serve and be a devotee, and even trying to remember Krishna always in every circumstance, but he may not be so perfect? what will happen to such a person? How does Krishna treat such a person? Is he standing there like on a big throne and he's keeping track of everyone? No. At 4 p.m. and 2 minutes after, you were thinking about something else. Deny it. Is that true or not true? It's true. Okay. Sorry. And then how about 2 minutes later? And how about all those times, and this happened, and this happened, and this? Do you think Krishna is like that? Well, I hope not. And he's not. And I wanted to tell you a story that I would even say is a pastime about one devotee who I went to the university with many, many years ago. And because I was born in New York City, and I went to the university in one city in New York, not New York State, called Buffalo, and the university was called State University of Buffalo, but we used to call it the University of Buffalo. Now, can you imagine what you study in the University of Buffalo? But anyway, it really was called State University of New York in Buffalo. Sometimes we learned how to go and how to go left and how to go right and stop and start. No, but actually, this devotee and I both attended this university, and he, now this is a photograph of this devotee, not the video, that looks like a video, but where it says number 1. No, next door. No, that's him after. That's His Holiness Guna Maharaj. And here, if you count from the left, or if you count from the right, it's easier. The second person on the left, going from right to left, that is Bhakta George, right there, yeah. And he was the drummer in the university band. And he loved to play the drums just like that. And he was expert.